This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you.
Have you talked
Thanks,
to Ray at all? Mike, have you talked to Ray at all lately?
Not in the last month and a half or so. I mean, he did attend one of our sessions, but I'm not sure if you were on that line, but he hasn't attended since.
And Margaret has been having late night meetings for quite a while. So
Yeah, unfortunately, I think with everything going on with this COVID thing, it's kind of ramped up her interaction of things she's got to do too, I think, unfortunately. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think we can keep on going on like this. Well, why don't we just get going anyhow? And we can't call a meeting officially to order, but at least we can talk about some things out there. Anybody have anything in their communication or announcements that you want to talk about before I run my mouth a little bit?
Dick,
No?
do you know how to contact to help out Baker Woods without going to
GoFundMe?
yeah, I mean, is there any way to directly, so that if you donated money, it would all go directly to her? I thought I saw somewhere that you knew. Is that incorrect?
yeah, I had put a post up and I tried to boost it,
Mm-hmm.
but the folks, when I tried to boost it on Ashford Community Connections, had
Mm-hmm.
shut it off. But on the Our Town, Our Future, there is a post, and it goes to the GoFundMe page.
Okay.
And I talked to Mike Zambo.
Mm-hmm.
His daughter had put that up, and GoFundMe takes a few percentages off the top, but it's not a lot. And the money goes directly to Mike Zambo's daughter to give to Nancy. So I think that's probably the best way to give, because I don't know if there's any way to directly send money
Mm-hmm.
to her personally, but I had,
And does she have to pay taxes on that then?
I'm not sure whether she pays taxes or not. Her tax bracket is going to be so low,
Okay.
inconsequential. So
Okay.
it'll get recorded through the GoFundMe, but it's she had really backed off of everything after Al died,
Mm-hmm.
and this latest setback is just heartbreaking. I mean,
Was it electrical? Did they ever figure out what happened, or?
it was, as best I can determine, it was most likely electrical because the fire started in the back of the house, not near the fireplace
Okay.
or wood stove. So she was able to open the front door and let some of the animals out. But unfortunately, for those who really followed her Labrador mother, that dog was one of the ones that didn't survive. And it was about half of her animals got out, the other half didn't. Those were the ones that were in her house. The animals that were in all the other structures around the property all survived, but she's still in a mode of trying to figure how to feed everybody. Uh, you know, I gave her some money on the GoFundMe, but I also went down to the Mansfield Supply Depot place that sells feed and picked up half a dozen bags of bird food and lamb food and whatever, and dropped them off at her house. So, she can use some help in feeding all the animals.
Does she have any ponies still, or just?
I'm not sure. She did have this one pony. I didn't notice it there when I stopped by. It was hard to get through because all of
Okay.
the fire trucks and stuff had really done a job on the road going in.
Yeah.
And I've got a 4-wheel drive, so I was able to go through, but I had basically, done a mud job on my truck like crazy. Um, but
Is she still living up there? I mean, you're saying at the house. I mean, where is she living? Staying with her daughter?
she's living with her daughter and or uh, her brother. Her brother lives over on Bevington Extension, which is right adjacent to where her place is, and that's Norm Baker. And her daughter lives in town and works with the Elegant Edge. Is that the right one? The hair salon that is in the shopping plaza there. Uh,
Open
with this,
wellness.
yeah, Open Wellness. Her daughter
Okay.
works. Her daughter works there, so she's got family that's local. What she right now is trying to get enough money together to put a trailer, a mobile home, or something like that on the property, so she can live on the property and take care of all the animals.
So she probably didn't have insurance then, huh?
She surprisingly did have some insurance. I talked to Pat McHugh, and he did indicate that she did have some insurance. Whether the insurance will cover everything totally, it's a question mark. But I would have thought with everything that's going on with her, she would not have bothered to have bought any insurance at all. But thank goodness that she actually did.
Um,
So,
Here's
Margaret, I'm
something.
sorry to be signing on late.
Hello,
Hey,
Margaret.
Mike, it's Margaret. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah. So, hi, I'm sorry to be late jumping on, but I'm on by phone.
Very good. Thank you. That was kind of a bad connection there or something, but is everybody else? Is somebody else? I hear something else in the background.
Sounds like someone's got a radio on.
Maureen, do you have something going on in the background?
Um, but I have my headphones on, so you shouldn't. Hang on, let me see here. If that's,
Right.
let me see if it's me who's causing this. I thought that because I was on my headphones, you wouldn't. Is that better?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, sounds like a TV or something in the background, but
Yeah, yeah. How about now?
that's good.
Good, okay.
Very good. Well, now we can start the meeting. We'll call it actually to order. We get like a quorum. That's great.
Good.
So we'll call the meeting to order here at 7:13. And I don't know if anybody ever looked at our previous minutes we had from way back when.
August.
I'm assuming probably everybody's forgotten them, but can I get a motion to approve them? So you can at least get this off the agenda.
So approved.
Okay. Any conversation? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay. Good. Communications and announcements. Anything anybody has? Before I give you a couple updates. If not, I can give you a couple updates. I have reached out to Bill Folletti. He and I are going to connect here, if not this week, maybe next week. Just kind of talk about a few things that are out there. Last time we probably all gotten together, we were working on a few things with the DOT along Route 44 and also the school zone near the Ashford School on Route 89. The previous select woman, Catherine Silversmith, did get some things going in that direction, but I'm not even sure where things are at. But there remain opportunities to work with the DOT to at least get up some, to actually designate a school zone speed, which there really isn't one, believe it or not. for the Ashford school, and then to, if this town wants to actually put up these, radar type of speed signs that you see in other towns like Stafford and I think Ellington, a number of towns, actually it looks like most towns have those kind of speed limit radar signs in their school zones.
I've seen one, Mike. Is that one of the ones you arranged for on Turnpike Road?
She did get those are on loan. There's one there, and I think there's one on North Road. Those are on loan from Yukon, from the technology transfer group there at Yukon. And those were more to respond to resident concerns about speed. And those are actually collecting data. They have telemetrics that actually will provide the number of cars, their speeds, and all that jazz, so there can actually be some engineering that goes into it to determine what speeds are actually going on along those roads and counts of vehicles. Obviously, they're in one direction, but at least it's a starting point. So that's one of the things I'm going to try to close the loop with Bill on to see where he's at with that relative to what Catherine has been working on.
Just as an aside, like I go down Turnpike Road quite frequently. The number of people doing 35 miles an hour on Turnpike Road, probably 5% of the people on the road. So it's definitely not, it's going to show that people by and large are not going the speed limit. And frankly, it's pretty difficult to go 35 miles an hour on that road.
Well, I'm not going to go into a traffic engineering dissertation here, but there's very few roads anywhere in the country that anybody probably travels the speed. Most of the time, people on their own roads are going faster than the posted speed limit. But really, what those speed limit signs or the data it'll collect, in one sense, will show what they'll be able to determine what they call the 85th percentile. In other words, 85% of the cars are traveling at a certain speed or lower, and that's usually what defines probably what is the comfortable speed limit for a road. Obviously, the posted speed is 30 there on Turnpike, and it's probably the comfortable speed limit is obviously more than that. But if it's in fact the average 85th percentile, say for instance, is 45 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, which is kind of too much for a rural road like that, then there's other measures that can be put in place that Catherine had started discussing with the people at Yukon about things that can be done to improve safety or whatever. So that's something I'll try to close the loop with Bill Folletti on and see where things are at. But getting back to the 7484, it's the same thing. There'd been some things that had been discussed, and Catherine had reached out and had some conversation. I think I mentioned I'd forwarded some information and to both to the DOT and gotten some response, and they were working on some things. But it really everything has to go through the board of selectmen, and actually the first select person, who is in fact the traffic authority for the local traffic authority for Ashford. So they're the ones that speak and are the ones that actually would have to communicate, and so that's what we're working towards there. So
Yeah, one
slow
of the
progress.
things that Bill brought up, Mike, is that you'd invited him to come to this meeting, but our meeting date and time coincides with one of the
Right.
bi-monthly Board of Selectmen meeting. So what we might consider doing is having a meeting that would not be when the Board of Selectmen's meeting, and
Right.
then use that as a way to, to talk with them, because
Right. Well, one of the things, if we go to the other thing, I mean, obviously what's going on with the COVID situation relative to meeting status and all that jazz, we're still kind of, I think there was a thought that maybe come this month, we might be able to go to some kind of hybrid or meeting of sorts, but as the town's trying to get the equipment located in one of the meeting rooms at the town hall. But that hasn't happened, so, I mean, like, I don't have any updates on that at this point.
Well, it's possible to have a non-hybrid meeting. Both the Republican and Democratic town committees are having their caucuses at the old post office, and those are being done in person at the old post office area. The Ashford Community Arts Group have been having meetings in Knowlton Hall. So there's ways to have meetings that are not hybrid that are available within the town. When I last spoke with Bill about a couple weeks ago, he was saying that they were going to be ready to use the large conference room in the basement of the town hall as a hybrid meeting sometime in the first couple weeks of this month. So there's been no update on that I've heard, recently.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, there's strict, I'll say regulations, rules through FOI and everything else relative to how these meetings have to be conducted. So, maybe the Democratic and Republican committees can do those things kind of off. They don't necessarily have to follow the same criteria because we're appointed committee of the Board of Selectmen, so we have to kind of, unfortunately or fortunately, follow those regulations. So that's because we're kind of in a waiting queue then for what the Board of Selectmen finally decide on how they're going to handle, the town sanction meetings moving forward. So.
Yeah, the Board of Selectmen meetings are all virtual using Zoom or GoToMeeting.
So any other updates or announcements anybody wants to make on anything else?
So you think, so going back to this 7444 thing, do you have a sense, I mean, maybe you haven't had a chance to talk to Bill enough. Does he understand where we're all coming from about the need to figure out a way to slow traffic down coming through our community? I mean, beyond the safety element, just so that people can slow down long enough to realize there is a town center there. Or is that part of what we need to try to, to get him on board about?
I think he wants to talk, get up to speed. I mean, he understands what we had originally talked about. I think, I've kind of missed him in passing a couple of times, and we're going to try to connect it either by phone this week, if not in person. But so I think it's a matter of bringing him up to speed and some of the nuances of trying to at least move this thing forward. Because the DOT, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, they're the ones that have the cards, and they have to play the hand for us to move forward in a number of different ways, which was to actually initiate that traffic engineering study, which would do all the things that would be needed to evaluate speed and traffic counts and things like that to enter into a program, funded program to make any kind of changes. So he wanted to kind of hear it from me as to what I knew and to bring him up to speed. That was what I got through him and Chris when I kind of touched base about a couple weeks ago.
Did you physically talk? Because I brought my body down to the town hall to pay my taxes because I refused to mail in my tax bill. It's a reminder to me of what I'm paying in taxes to physically go down there and hand over the check.
Who needs a reminder? See it in my bank account.
No, but it's a thing I've always done. So I managed to go down to the town hall and I walked upstairs and Bill was in his office and we talked for a while. And I had encouraged him to reach out to you to kind of get an update on everything that had been done with the RSA. So, hopefully he had done that. I gave him all your contact information.
Well, I'd stopped by and he wasn't there. I talked with Chris and that she said his schedule's all over the place and she said, why don't you send something and then you can catch up. So I did catch up with Bill via email, but we have to kind of talk. So I'll do that hopefully this week, if not then next week.
I would throw out in terms of it's good if we can get all of those recommendations in the RSA enacted upon. But I would say in terms of priorities, the 7444 intersection, the area right in the center of Warrenville, and the school zone, and also, which we hadn't talked about before, but the area coming down into Lake Chaffee. I had almost had a major accident coming down the hill there where someone I was going slow and like 30 miles an hour coming down the hill, and the person behind me didn't like the idea I was going too slow, so coming right into the area near the convenience store, the person passed me and just about had a collision with someone coming out of the store. So that whole area there is a mess ready to happen.
Well, I think we'll focus on 7444 and these others are good conversation, but I will also just, as a matter of FYI, is that the state of Connecticut DOT is down about 150 engineers, unfortunately, and every day I get pounded with their ads for trying to hire these people. So I mean, they're kind of behind the 8 ball too. So it's
Well, maybe there's a job opportunity for you, Mike.
no, I've already turned down enough. I enjoy retirement. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And then all the consultants that would be the DOT could hire to do some of this work, they're having a very difficult time trying to get people to do the work. So it's I think our challenge is even greater now. Unfortunately, I'm not trying to be a bearer of bad news, but it's we're up against even more challenges with just lack of people to kind of facilitate discussions even at this point. So, but we'll keep at it because we have the RSA. We've been kind of in queue for a while, and they indicated they were going to get back to us with some feedback. So, and unfortunately, again, it's really in their hands to kind of begin to proceed on some of the recommendations that were identified in that RSA.
Can any reach out to Tammy or Dan on Dan Champlain and Tammy Nuzio? Would they help?
That's been tried already, and I know personally I've reached out to Tammy several times on some things, and I haven't even gotten an email back. So, so I don't know, and I know that Catherine had done the same thing and been made promises, and nothing ever happened. So that's why we were trying other routes here, So I don't know. I mean, we can continue to work on it.
Well, I mean,
the DOT typically, I mean, what ends up happening at DOT typically, when the state, the politicians get involved, it doesn't always speed up things because they have to go through the staff anyhow. So if you can kind of work with the staff, you're better off. But I'm open for any suggestions at this point.
Well, and I have one other point. Is it not a state law that when you are passing in front of a school that it's automatically a 30-mile-an-hour zone?
Nope. I mean, the one thing we did find out from the state, when the DOT, they did do some research for us, and you can. What the law states is that the speed is can be reduced by 10 miles an hour in a school zone. So if it's posted at the normal speed limit is 30, then you could reduce it to 20. If it's 40, you can reduce it to 30, so on. And I think it's 45 there, so it can be reduced to 35. But this town has never done that, gone through the process through OSTA, which is the Office of State Traffic Engineering, to have that effectively put in place. So that's the first thing that has to be done. And I think Catherine had sent them the first step, but I don't know if she ever heard back. So yeah, so there's a process you have to follow. Once you do that, then you can put up the signs, and then you can, and other things that can at least have it the speed limit reduced in that speed zone or that school zone.
Well, you know, the school area there, I don't drive as much as I used to drive around, but when I've gone by the school on my way to physical therapy, going to the stores, there there is constantly people pulling out of the access road going into the parking lot in the back. And there's like, I've probably seen a half a dozen almost accidents there. So, I mean, it's,
Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, it's our kids, and it's a lot of school buses and a lot of, you know, families pulling in and out of there all times of the day or night. So that seems like that would be a really, you know, smart thing to do. And I'm sort of shocked that we've never done it before. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's DOT is willing to work with us. We just have to have, you know, the first selectman's office connect, put in the paperwork, and
Well,
you know,
you
if they're
know,
not at the speed limit,
I would be amazed if Bill wouldn't step up to this. And
good.
I'll, you know, I won't speak for him, but I'm sure that this would be something that he would support. So he probably just needs to have some guidance as to what he needs to do.
Got it. That's what I will convey to him when I connect with him.
So, you know,
right. Well, that would be a good thing.
Some progress, anyhow.
so I'll drop him a note and ask, you know, that he, you know, proactively link up with you, Mike.
Yeah, I did reach out to him too earlier today, asking if we had some time to meet. So we'll see. Hopefully it gets done.
You know, and
Um,
I think in terms of things that this group can encourage, you know, trying to get some, and in all of the activities that were identified in the RSA moving forward is probably the number one, two, and three things for this group to be involved in. Uh, you know, down around 4 or 5 comes the updates to the POCD, but that's going to be very dependent upon planning and zoning and what they put on their agenda. I've not been able to attend their meetings the past 2 or 3 meetings, so I will plan on attending the next one next week, and I'll bring this up at that meeting. Apologize for my being somewhat out of the loop a little bit, but hopefully over the next several months, I can get back in the loop.
I think, thank you, Dick. I think, you know, moving forward with our group, I mean, we've just kind of been a little bit of a lost cause here in the last year or so, but I think there's still, if we kind of look at where the future takes, it's going to take some time to get anything kind of back moving forward with a, you know, kind of a larger kind of view of where the town wants to be. And again, we talked a couple months ago about, you know, possibly kind of re-engage the community in one of these leadership roundtables. I mean, the one thing that came out of the last time we did one of the gatherings right before all this started, there was a lot of good collaboration that occurred out of it that didn't require our facilitation other than getting everybody in the same room and discussing. And you've seen some of that. You know, like Conroy had some different food drives where they engaged the community. They had a fishing derby they had for kids. There was a number of different things that happened that came out of that. And I think also you talk about the POCD. It's, even though it's not due to be updated until 2025, that means we really only have 2 years to kind of get it going. And before, you know, we know how long and how much effort that takes. So if we kind of get that, at least that conversation going, it probably won't be until the end, you know, the second or towards the end of this year, calendar year, that thing actually would get together with a group of people doing something about it. And it's going to take a good year to kind of go through that process. And one of the things we talked about was whether we could kind of combine kind of a begin with a leadership roundtable to kind to maybe at least focus some ideas, and then then to see who you could get to actually with P and Z to take that initiative, because it's something that's going to have to be done in the future. And our current POCD still has, I mean, to everybody's credit, I think there's been a lot of things that have been accomplished, but I think there's also still a lot of great things that are on those, those goals and objectives that could still be, um, facilitated, initiated for somebody to kind of take, um, run at here in Ashford to get some good positive things done, so.
Yeah, Mike, I read doubt in today's COVID environment. We're going to get people all assembled like we
Right.
did a year or two ago in the big conference room, all talking about how they could all work together. I think the really first step is to get an agreement from planning and zoning that they're going to form a committee to start looking at this, and then having our town, our future people uh, is part of that activity. Uh, I don't see, at least there hasn't been a lot of proactive things done on this from planning and zoning. Uh, so I think that what we can do is provide the impetus by getting on their, their agenda to get them to endorse forming a committee that would start to evaluate what has been done and what needs to be done, and get in place a, a group that would take forth and do this. It took us a long time, I don't know, 10 years ago, I lose track of time, but it took us a long time to get a group together to do something. And then it took even longer for us to get that group to actually produce anything. So, you know,
It's not too soon to start, is what I'm saying.
Right.
and the other thing too is we need to really bring up to planning and zoning as who is going to work with us to do the logistics of making this happen. We had this reluctant participation from NECOG, and I don't know if they're going to want to work with us or not. And if they are, what are they going to do? So we got to, kind of face that one. And that's a planning and zoning plus board of selectmen issue that's got to be addressed. You know, we've talked about getting out of NECOG and getting into CROG, uh, but that discussion hasn't really gone much further than this little small group.
Well, thoughts, Margaret, Maureen?
Well, I was thinking, the concept about looking at the plan of conservation and development, like with our town, our future, right? Like it's where we are today overlaps with our vision of where we want to be in the future. And so maybe using the plan of conservation and development, right, as a document, because it's supposed to be a working planning document, to look at, here are some of the things that we've outlined that in that document that we want to achieve in the future as a community, and to kind of take our temperature, right, as a community, where are we with that? And just kind of remind people about the role of the plan of conservation and development. I mean, maybe, if we, for example, maybe we try to drum up some interest, even if it is a Zoom meeting that is in our town, our future, for anybody that wants to participate. And we somehow kind of use the plan of conservation and development and kind of talk about some of the projects that are in there as a way, as a jumping off point for is this still valid? Are these things that we're still interested in? And then, another thought is we have a relatively new superintendent in our community, right? So here's a guy that came and sold himself as a visionary for our schools. What about hosting a forum where, we kind of get him to brainstorm about the things that he might see a community like ours doing to support kids and to support education and to support, the future of that. I feel like when we first got together, we did a really good job of focusing on a couple of little projects that we could somehow get done. And by getting them done, people felt like, right, like that we were making progress in shaping our community. So that's what I'm trying to get a handle on, is how do we, the Plan of Conservation and Development and the Planning and Zoning Commission, right? Like, yeah, they've got to push that forward and they've got to take the lead on making that happen in 5 years, and we can contribute to that. But how do we keep people dreaming and thinking about what they would like to see in their community and engage them in an effort to get them engaged then in serving on the committee to draft the POCD? It's like, I feel like it's the dream hook is what we were very successful at generating originally. What's your vision? What's your dream for our community? So I'm kind of looking for that. I'm kind of figuring out how do we, not get too mired down in the practical, although that's what we need to do to get things done, but to continue to tease people's imaginations about the future of their community. So that's something that keeps rattling around in my head as a role for us, this organization.
What do you think, Maureen?
Unmute me. I think what has been addressed in there, the POCD too, is here my obsession is also the Historical Society. That I don't know what's happened to it. Kathy Bassett and I have tried to get a hold of people and nobody responds. So every other town around here, Pomfret's doing all these classes, and hey, to me, it's, if you're looking at the future, of course, it's important to look at the past, and there's such a rich heritage here. I just feel like we're losing it. And so I don't know where to go with that, because that was a 503C, I believe, and there are obligations with that. Aren't there reporting obligations? And there's finances that are involved. And I don't know how hard it would be to change that to a town committee or whatever, but it's my obsession, and I hate to, every month when we get the Citizen, I always look through it so closely, looking for something, some notice of a meeting, and I've contacted people and there's been no response. So I really don't know where to go with that. Maybe I need to talk to somebody about, because Kathy and we've talked to Joan Gobin also, who contacted me initially and said, let's get this going again. And I responded to her, and then I didn't get another response. And Kathy's reached out to her a couple of times. So, but the more I learn about this town, it's just got such a rich history, and we should flaunt it. And, when I look, actually, I was at a store today, and someone was using recyclable grocery bags, and they were the Chaplin Historical Society, Canterbury Historical Society. Must have been a fundraiser. And I went to this thing on Pomfret. It was awesome. And they had a whole series of lectures. And so anyway, if I can find a way to do that, I'd love to. And it is mentioned in the POCD. There are references to having celebrating your past. So that's what I think again.
Well, I agree with everything you all said in the sense of, I mean, we got to find that that something that we had that spurred on. Look at the Ashford um, the Arts Council is so successful. I mean, they're just
Right.
amazing the things that they're doing, and that came right out of a stakeholders meeting we had. Um, so I think maybe there's an opportunity to run a couple parallel tracks here that may intersect down the line a little bit. And one is to kind of maybe see if we can get P and Z jump started at least in the thought and conversation of renewing their obligation for updating the POCD and all the wonderful things that are in there. And at the same time, maybe to Margaret's point, and maybe it isn't exactly stakeholders, but I just wonder whether we need to, I don't know if it's a double-edged sword, whether we try to engage the leadership like we did at one of these leadership roundtables we had, where we basically try to get the heads of some of these boards and commissions and these other groups that are out there in the community to see where they're at and where they may have some need and or things that they're trying to work on or priorities, and then doing that, we're actually engaging, the board of ed as well, and so everybody kind of gets the cross pollination of what's happening in other people's areas of interest, like yours, Maureen, and historical society, what have you, and then from that, then it's another step to kind of circle back and see how that intersects with POCD, and then also, maybe a greater outreach to the community at large. I mean, I think one of the challenges every community has, right, especially right now, is trying to engage people that aren't actively involved in some committee on a town to get new faces, and that's what we need. We need new blood, new people that are involved that have new ideas, and even younger people. None of us are getting any younger either. So I think about that. So I mean, maybe that's an opportunity. Maybe we get a couple of tracks going here. And obviously, I don't see anything happening, unfortunately, until probably, I'm praying that hope things get better, that maybe by early summer that, there'll be some kind of new wave of hopefulness that comes upon us all, that we can kind of, gather and rejoice and provide conversation that can move some of these things forward. So maybe at least we can start planting the seeds and get that conversation out there. I don't know. I mean, that's just my thought.
Well,
My,
Yeah.
initially with COVID, it seems that everything was on hold because we thought this is temporary. We're just going to do this temporarily. And, we're supposed to be the giant think tank for the town here. I think we need to acknowledge the fact life has changed. It's not, life's never going to go back to the way it was. And we need to find a way to accomplish what we want to accomplish. We need to provide that leadership. I mean, because things aren't going back. And we need to find a way to move ahead, I think. And we need to provide that leadership.
yeah,
Well,
Maureen,
right.
talking about the Historical Society,
Hmm.
and it's too bad that we couldn't have linked Bill Folletti in on this, but you all may recall that he and Linda had headed the 300 anniversary committee, which was a town committee.
Hmm.
Uh, and I would think that there would be an interest in, from Bill's viewpoint, of getting more involvement in the Historical Society. We've been kind of in a catch-22 in that some of the present and past management of the Historical Society has wanted, A, B, C, D, and the town can't do that, so therefore nothing happens. And I think you and some of the people that you've been working with have done a good job, moving some things forward. But frankly, if the Historical Society had more of an endorsement from the town, like the 300th anniversary had, it might help move the whole activity forward.
Would you suggest I talk to Bill, get his opinion on how to approach this?
Yeah, I think you would find it receptive. And I look at, I'm not, I make a point of only going on to Facebook once a day or once every 2 days. But I've noticed the activity of the Wellington Historic Society, and it's very active.
Oh yeah, they're very strong.
So I mean, and Wellington is not like I don't know if it's that much bigger or smaller than Ashford, but I don't think it has any more of a claim to historic activities than we do. But boy, they're active. So I mean,
Yeah,
Well, it's like any
it's
other club or organization, it's that who has dynamic leadership that makes things happen, right? So, but I think that that's an interesting area within if we can focus on like history, what are the 3 or 4 strengths that we think we have that we want to grow in our future? Even if we were to do some sort of a Zoom forum and then have breakout rooms, right? Like I'm not a Zoom master, but I know that there are facilitators who very nicely, right? You have a group thing and then you can get into little breakout rooms and people have conversations for 20 minutes and brainstorm just like we were doing it at Knowlton Hall. So maybe, we need to think about if we don't think we're going to get together live, how do we facilitate another Our Town, Our Future brainstorm and focus on 3 or 4 key areas.
that sounds great.
The arts thing, you're right, exploded, and we need to, maybe help get those guys even to help us, sort of restart Our Town, Our Future. I think about there's a handful of teachers who are good people who are younger than us, Mike, who live in Ashford. Maybe we can get the Chris Bussies of the world to come participate in a couple of Our Town, Our Future meetings. And, so I think it's like with anything, people have to be asked and kind of hand selected and pulled back in. Chuck Funk may just be very, disappointed that he didn't get reelected, but maybe we need Chuck Funk knowledge and experience and enthusiasm and pull him in to have some of these conversations because he, has done amazing things for a long time on the finance committee. So he knows a lot about that world. So, maybe there's, it's a matter of identifying 10 people that we would like to have on our team, somehow pulling them in, and then deciding how do we pull in, maybe we can generate what we think are some lead ideas and then go to the community with those lead ideas. And the plan of conservation and development might have a couple of them sitting right there on page 10, right, of what those focuses might be. So, and history and our historic resources being one of them.
Yeah, kind of intersection with the teachers and history. I may get the wrong person's name, but I think Jesse Burnham's wife is Jenna Burnham. Is that correct, Maureen?
I don't know.
She has been very active within the school. She's a teacher at Ashford School, and she has organized a group studying the history of Ashford.
Well, are you talking about, she was vice president of the Historical Society? Is that who you're referring to?
Yeah, I think
yeah.
she got brought into that, and I think she's someone that could really be recruited and brought into a bigger role because
Well, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Because she bridges both the school and the historical aspects of things.
Well, but technically, yes, you're right. And technically she is part of the Historical Society wherever they are now, but she's awesome. She's a very motivated person and she's a great resource. And I don't know what, as vice president of the Historical Society, I don't know what she's doing. So maybe we need to find out because
As I recall, the current quote unquote president wanted to make sure she was uh, not given too much authority too quick because she wanted to mentor her. Am I being politically correct, Maureen?
I wasn't part of that conversation. I know they worked together a lot, and the president was taking her under her wing, and but things were going very well.
Yeah.
And
But I think by bringing her in with this venue might help bring that along. My 2 cents worth.
well, I bet she would welcome that. So would the initial step be to talk to Bill about how to approach it? Because I'm not sure where the historical society is, if they're defunct or what, because there's been no response from them.
Well, there's been this obsession to getting funding to restore the, Tremco House, and this group has kind of been like Brer Rabbit, and I don't want to be politically incorrect, but what's Brer Rabbit touches and can't untouch?
Well, and I appreciate that, but my focus was more, there's all sorts of things in the town hall vaults that are historic. And several of us were going to meet for 8 hours on a Saturday and haul all of it out and index it all. And that's when COVID hit. But I think that some people may want to focus on the Trumka house, but some of us also just really want to look at what we have, and
Yeah,
that's kind of where I am,
and I endorse that. I think the key thing is figuring out a way to move forward.
Yeah, because I'm not on the committee, so I
Oh, you're not?
resigned from the committee. I resigned, yes.
Sorry to hear that.
Oh, yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah, yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that is what has happened way too much. Is people get involved in that and they get, you know, upset with it, resign from it, and personally, there's a lot of things I'm interested in, but the historical society is not on my top list of things. But it seems to always intersect with the things that we're doing. And in particular, all of these proposals for the Tremco House. There is
Yeah.
no way in hell anyone is going to renovate that Tremco House to put all the archives for Ashford historical, activities inside of that house.
I
It's
like
just,
them being in a vault because they're safe.
yeah, I mean, it's just,
But
that's not going to work. It's in a different place where we talk about things. The Economic Development Commission has been talking about ways to promote tourism. And one of the good uses of the Tremco House would be to turn it into a tourism, magnet place where people stop by to learn about what's going on in Ashford. So, but that doesn't have anything to do necessarily just with historical society. But anyway, I'm getting a bit off the topic,
Yeah,
okay,
Mike.
and
I apologize.
I can't stay too much longer. I got to go
okay.
eat some dinner and unwind from my day. So, what do you think next steps, Mike? What do you think we should focus on?
Well, I mean, this is what I'm hearing, and jump in if you think differently. But I think what I just recently heard is maybe we need to see if we can get a few of these, cherry pick some people that you know of that you think would be good to kind of diversify this group's view of life in Ashford, and also provide some further, help with us. Also, I think reach out to planning and zoning to kind of get them thinking about the POCD update. Also to kind of reach out to Bill Folletti to kind of see about getting a group together, like a leadership group, or keep on calling it a leadership, but a group of people that are involved in all these committees in town to kind of see where they're at, and see if we can begin to get at least some ideas of things they might be high on their list of things that need to be done, with the thought of moving towards kind of like one of our old stakeholders meetings where we can get
Yep.
Oh,
engagement. And doing that maybe we end up having to do it, like via Zoom, but we'd also maybe do some kind of townwide survey. Maybe that's a way to engage the people. I don't know. I mean, maybe surveys are a thing of the past, but I mean, somehow to connect with people, maybe it's through the Facebook pages, the Ashford community page over there as well. But try to connect to see what's hot on people's radar, other than the big C word we've been all dealing with. I don't know. Is
Right.
anything?
Yeah, and I think it might be all of the above. It may be a variety of these different ways to get
Right.
people to offer up their 2 cents worth.
Right.
Because I think it was very anecdotal. I remember the Borellos, who run Muddy Feet Farm, and I think Kristen came to one of our EDC meetings, and and she sort of said, "I wish we could just do something about that gas station It's like it's the gateway to our community, and it's a mess, and why can't we just do something with that?" Well, that also led to that whole painting project, which is still every day when I sit at that stop sign is still a delight to look at. So another Our Town, Our Future, but a little thing, right, that kind of popped out. So, I think I guess that's maybe the next step, is just to get on track with what, these 4 or 5 items, Mike, that you just talked about as next steps. And maybe if each of us identified 3 individuals that we think would contribute to this, and maybe
okay.
reach out to them and kind of talk about what it is we're trying to do, and see if we can't kind of beef up our forces, that might be a place to start, with the notion that we're trying to, give some input to the POCD and whoever's going to do that, and just focus on what are some other things that we think would be really positive for our future. So
Yeah,
I think
Margaret,
that makes sense.
I think that's a good idea.
Yep.
And I would broaden it to say, we originally tried to foster separate groups to go do different things. I think what we need is to get more people into this core group. So if we could identify, 3, 4, 5, 6 people that we could engage to be meeting with us to talk about how we could, do things overall, someone from the school, someone from the historical society, someone from, some of the local businesses. Those would be good things that we could do to kind of kickstart this group, so we're not all talking to ourselves.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'll put together these thoughts we've had here, get out to you guys just for
Thank
feedback.
you.
We'll try to get some of these contacts with people going here this week. And again, if you find or know somebody, I know mostly older people here in Ashford, so you guys know younger people.
Do we want to float names back to each other first, or do we just want to start, talking about some folks?
I trust you guys, so I mean, I've already heard a couple names that somebody should reach out to them, Chuck and Jenna. I mean, there's 2 people right off the bat, right?
There's another person that we didn't mention, Doug Jenny's wife, and I can't think of her name right off the bat. He's a member of the Planning and Zoning, and his wife was an active participant in one of our meetings, years ago, and she said that she had experience in writing grants.
Yes, yes.
She,
Yeah.
she would be a good person to get involved. And they've evolved into running a little mini farm. So if you do Facebook of Doug Jenny, you'll find her name there.
Okay.
So does somebody want to contact Jenna Burnham and this latest person that you're talking about?
I can contact Jenna.
Okay.
And yeah.
Want me to reach out to Chuck, or do you know him better, Margaret? I mean,
I don't know. I think either one of us would be fine.
Okay.
I'll give them a shout. And then, who wants to reach out to Jenna Burnham?
Oh, I will.
Oh, you're gonna do Jenna, and how about the last person you're talking about here?
Oh,
Did you
that's,
say like Jennings?
Doug Jenny's wife.
oh, I don't know who that, yeah,
I don't.
no.
You know
I
that
was
person?
gonna reach out to Jenna Burnham, the vice
Okay.
president of the Historical Society, the
Okay.
teacher at the Ashford School.
Right. Okay. Okay. And if other, of any other people, then let's just reach out to them. At least start the
good.
conversation, see where it goes.
And
Okay,
Mike, I will reach out to Bill Folletti and kind of tell him how he needs to connect with this group and do what he can do to try to promote it.
Yep.
okay.
Sounds like a plan. Okay. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your
Thanks so much. I move to adjourn.
adjourn. Thank you. Second, anybody?
Second it.
Thank
Margaret
you.
seconds it.
Adjourn. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
Good
you very
night.
much. Good night, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate